In case you missed it, the Lord of the Rings mod has been incredibly public lately as to their latest developments and hosted a public Q&A last night where multiple mod team members, me included, answered all the questions the community could come up with concerning the 1.15 version of the mod, also known as the Lord of the Rings mod Renewed. The total amount of questions resulted into a 17 pages long document, which I'm now going to go over with all of you to bring you all the information you have missed out on. Note that some of these questions might repeat themselves, but grab a cup of tea or something or some other beverage, sit back and listen on everything the mod team has said based on all your questions. So, jumping just straight into it, the first question says, will existing content from 1.7.10 be revised while introducing it to 1.15, or will the goal for the foreseeable future only be to duplicate all the original features of the mod without retroactively updating content? We're straight diving into the important details. The answer to this was, it's not a stated goal, but we are revising some features as we update them, just because things come to mind. For example, today I ported the stalactites across and added a lot of new ones in the process. Plus, it is now a single block with varying placements instead of two different ones. So as you can see here, we do plan to just copy and paste basically the same things over and make them look better, but every now and then we'll find new things to do, and if that occurs, we will see if we can revise some features. Alright, moving on to the second question of this 17-page document. Will faction shields be crafted in their crafting tables or just put onto vanilla shields as a skin? They will be separate faction craftable items. A brief answer, love it. Moving on. Is there any chance that the mod might get an update and compatibility with versions between 1.7.10 and 1.15, such as versions as 1.12.2? It won't be made for 1.12 or any other intermediate versions, since the workload in updating it at all is quite huge. Will the vanilla crossbow stay? Yes, and mod crossbows will be adapted versions of it. Will there ever be build structures? For example, Erebor, Helm's Deep, Ministerieth, Mount Gundabad. Now this is a question that often comes up and is actually in the frequently asked questions section, but we gave an answer nonetheless. They are not a high priority because people like to build them on servers, and we don't want to prioritize something that will just be turned off in configuration by most players. Fair answer, straightforward, moving on. Will the villager job system from 1.15 be integrated to the mod civilian NPCs or traders? Quite possibly, parts of it will be integrated. We want to include the bet mechanics at least. In the 1.15.2 version, do you plan on making it compatible with Optifine? Yes, and if there's an incompatibility, we will try to fix it. Will structures and factions be updated, or will they remain the same besides a texture change? As someone asked above, referring to a different question as they were not all answered linearly, updating everything isn't a priority because just updating the mod to 1.15 is a sheer amount of work, but things will naturally be tweaked a bit as we pass over them. Will you use the vanilla combat system or will you use the one you made for 1.7.10 because I prefer yours? Well, first of all, thank you for, supporting the mod's decisions. We're glad that you actually agree with the decisions we make. The answer, there were a lot of PvP questions in this, and a lot of the answers will be vague because some of it is just simply not worked out. But the answer to this question specifically is, in the complete version, it will naturally be based on the vanilla combat system, but with elements of the mod's combat system included, such as weapon reach and items with knockback. Is there any sort of timeline with 1.15 for can we expect regular and content-filled updates? The snapshots are going to be released very frequently. We are thinking about one every week or every 2 weeks, and doing away with the expectation of making huge updates, just publishing whatever new progress has been made. So that is actually quite a big thing if you guys are looking forward or are worried that it will be years before we publish the second snapshot of 1.15. We do plan to keep it smaller updates. Will tridents be allowed, as it is not lore? There will probably be a Middle-earth equivalent. A lot of these questions also result into if there's a place for it in Middle-earth, we'll try to make it work. Otherwise, we'll have to figure something out. This is one of them. Will you be able to hit people as much as you want with any weapon before the cooldown of max damage is over? So would you be able to spam chill even if you barely do any damage? This is a really good question. Some of the weapon effects, like the Chill of Daedalus or the fire effect, are in a sense balanced due to the fact that you cannot hit your weapon until the cooldown is over in our combat system. But moving over to 1.15, there's a new combat system, and if that meant we removed the duration, then you could just spam that and still get the extra effect off. Answer to this question: we haven't discussed which direction we wish to take PvP. As I said, PvP is a big thing. We're still very much discussing that, and it will be a time will tell and trial and error thing, I think. Will structures receive an update to use things like campfires? Some structures will likely change slightly to implement some of the new 1.15 features, like campfires and storage barrels, etc. Don't expect everything to be completely revamped though. What features of the new Minecraft versions in particular compelled you to make the jump to a modern Minecraft version? And will you continue updating the mod to newer versions of Minecraft, or will it stay on 1.15 after this till you get another feature you would like to have? The answer to this is quite long, but let's just get into it. It was a mix of things, but the main one that stood out to us was waterlogging blocks and a block state system, which is a vast improvement over block and metadata from the code design perspective. That doesn't mean it's easy to update to from old code, but going forward it's so much nicer. As for later versions, the main reason we shirked to 1.8 update and subsequent ones was the huge amount of code-based refactoring, such as the above. 1.16, for example, will probably be just a content update and not require any major code changes for a modder updating from 1.15. Okay, moving on. With the rework of the mod, will the creative menu be updated to be more organized? No, because this is not in our hands unless a mod added a new creative menu. Blocks and items are ordered by their ID. There's no method in the code to order them specifically. Are you planning to rebalance factions at all? To me, this seems like a perfect opportunity to do so, since you will be remaking everything from scratch. Several recent posters on the wiki all but proved through testing that Uruks, and especially Black Uruks and Uruk Berserkers, all but roll over even Dwarf and Elven warriors, and even Huorns can't defeat them 1v1. Is there any plan to remedy that? Answer to this is, we might rebalance some stuff, but we'll discuss that when we get to adding factions. Which feature / part of the update will change the most of the mod as we know it? I would venture to say it's the block state system. For example, this includes waterlogged blocks, and block states make it much easier to add sub-properties to blocks, which we have seen a glimpse of with the sideways pillars and fruitless leaves. Much quicker to code than in 1.7.10. So this indeed does, the block states allow us to do a lot more, a lot easier. Which factions still remain to be completed before the mods can move on to other projects besides fleshing out the factions of Middle-earth? This was actually asked by someone from the mod team and answered by the mod team, so some of the answers that we have of factions we want to still add is Bree, Lossith, Woodman / Beornings, Wainriders, Khand, Druidane, Red Mountain Dwarves, Avari Elves, and some non-canon plans for Rune and Arad, and maybe some others that Mevins has forgotten. We have a lot always planned. It's always around when does it feel right and when do we feel like adding it. Will there be more food added? Always. Always. Is there any chance you might add an Oliphant mob to the mod in the future? There's always a chance. Hi, any ballpark time when update 36 will come out? That has also been a comment or a question that has come up a lot about update 36. The answer for this specific one is probably after a few more renewed snapshots, maybe a few weeks. So stay on the lookout for that, as who knows when new updates come out at this time. What are the most high priority factions for you to introduce into the mod, and are they higher priority than gameplay features such as Conquest? The assumption was that he was talking about porting them to 1.15. Basic faction mechanics and content are higher priority than more abstract mechanics such as Conquest. The most high priority factions will be those which are canon, those which are most familiar to people from the books and movies, and those which are most commonly played. Any plans to add Rune Bandits? That's a very specific question, probably. We've just never got around to it. After the port to 1.15 is finished, will development be faster or slower because of the difference in code? Judging by what Mevins has seen so far, it may be slightly faster for some aspects, such as blocks, and slightly slower for others, such as world generation features and trees. What features have you ever wanted to add but chosen not to because they conflict with existing lore? Now this was a question that actually went around in the mod team because it was really fun and really good. So it's a really long answer, but it's a fun question. So the first thing that comes to mind is the extremely extensive non-canon Harad and Rune faction planning that we have worked on over the years. Mostly the work of Cars. If you don't know Cars, he's part of the mod team, and as one friend to another, he is way too obsessed about Harad and Rune. And I'm pretty sure he carried a lot of the preparations for the Harad update already. It has had to undergo some revisions as we've decided over time to adopt a more lore-backed approach. Don't worry, it hasn't been thrown away. A lot of new factions are still in the pipeline for the future, but we're taking care to make them more lore-friendly. You can also add to that category several of the factions suggested by people in the mod wiki over the years, some of which may be very deeply planned out, but unfortunately not a great fit for the world of Tolkien. Something else, it seems, it would be quite fun to code a really extensive magic system into Minecraft, and we could even have got away with it judging by what some Lord of the Rings games have done over the years. Unfortunately, big flashy magic just doesn't fit well with Tolkien's lore, so Mevins would really like to add a big extensive magic system, but it just would be kind of more fan service to ourselves than an actual homage to Tolkien's work. Are you planning on adding stone/dirt slabs to the generation? Probably not, besides their use in roads or structures. After 1.15, are there any plans for the Eastern/Rune expansion? Afari are getting kinda lonely. I must admit that it's not a specific priority, but neither is anything else. So yeah, it's the case of when we get to it, we get to it. So we are now on page 3 of the document, and we're hitting round 2. This was the first round. Basically, each round of questions was 5 minutes for people to spam what they could. One question only. And then we would all answer them. Round 1 was basically a smaller group. Round 2 really started racking it up. So let's just dive into round 2. I hope you're all still with me. My tea is still too warm to drink, so hopefully my voice won't die until I get to take a sip at round 3. Alright. Will processes such as ring forging become easier to code once the mod has been fully updated to 1.15? It will probably not be any easier or harder. You said you're doing weekly updates to Renewed of whatever you've progressed on. With that in mind, could you share some of what is coming in the second Renewed update? New stalagmites and new textures, including new Gondor rock textures, are already confirmed. Other stuff will be teased over the next days, so keep a lookout on Facebook, especially. That's where we kind of post most of the teases. Are there any long-term plans for larger quests, such as conquering an area or multi-stage tasks? This was one of the questions I got to answer, and I'm really excited because narrative got a little bit of attention, mainly because I said that I was sad that I had no questions for narrative in the first round, but I got a bunch of them afterwards, so yay. The answer was, there certainly are plans for sequential quests and larger storylines. Their implementation is still in discussion, however. Possibly with this port, it will allow us to look into getting a system in place for when the time is right to add these. So I am definitely thinking about larger quests. I love to write them. It's just a matter of, is there a fitting moment for them? And it's a lot of work to write a lot and make it sure that everybody has access to it. Alright, moving on. Yo, hello. Are you guys going to do something about the recent mount update, like reverse it or making it an option in the future? Since on a larger server they are causing a lot of lagging, meaning that they got banned, and that's very sad, since they add a lot to the mod. Or will that problem just be fixed in 1.15? It is a shame. Unfortunately, if mounts being usable is directly causing more chunks to be loaded, then it's not really something we can fix without limiting the use of mounts. As you mentioned, it might be better in 1.15 because chunk loading is more optimized, but I can't promise that without knowing how well the mod runs on 1.15, which of course we can't know yet. So yeah, the mounts are always a tricky state because the faster you load chunks, the more it will lag, so the better horses work, the worse they get. It kind of balances each other out. Will the block state thing, I don't know how it works, but I kind of guess it. That's fair. I don't know how it works either, and I kind of have a guess for it as well. Allow seasons, and thus changing tree leaves and fallen leaves depending on the season. Ah yes, seasons, something all of us adore. Unfortunately, block states does not make that problem any easier as far as I know. That is, it might make it easier to code seasonal block types, but the problematic reason we never added seasons is related to the way chunk rendering code works. I would need to explain in more detail elsewhere, but suffice to say that one isn't magically fixed by 1.15. This is, unfortunately, just really difficult to do. Would you ever consider hosting the mod on CurseForge for higher visibility and passive income from the author rewards program? Possibly. We'll look into it. Have you ever thought about adding siege machines that would be possible for 1.15? Catapults, ballista, etc. We've thought about it. We'd quite like to, but we've just never got around to it. They're not specifically planned for anything, for any particular update. It's also a matter of how are you going to avoid it to grieve other people's builds. Yet banner protection also still has to be in place. It's a tricky thing. If there are no major changes in code, will you go up to 1.17.x and make goats, if added, writable for dwarves? I would love to see alternatively spawn them with hogs and goats. I suppose that depends on whether Mojang do the mountain update in 1.17. It's not confirmed as far as we're aware of, but if so, they would probably spawn in Middle Earth because why not? Will more lore characters be added? For now, we will not look to add characters without proper integration into the mod or its features, i.e. Gandalf as a tutorial NPC. And there's also a reason of copyright issues, which is why we call it like the Grey Wanderer and not Gandalf, because, well, Tolkien Estate is a pain. Does the update to 1.15 make cubic chunks a possibility? It probably makes it easier, but at the moment, we feel we would prefer to leave that to other modders, since it's such a game-changing feature. What does the dev team agree that is going to be the most ambitious and complex addition you desire to add to the mod in the near future? The whole update 1.15.2 itself. Besides that, maybe Mumakill. Yeah, it's quite a big thing that we're handling. I mentioned it at some point to people, but the mod size is about 4 times the Lord of the Rings trilogy in characters, and then just expect that in math equations that Mevins has to completely redo. Alright, next question. Writing speech banks sounds so insanely fun, I know. Is there any chance I could help in some way? To answer your question, probably yes. It's a bit complicated, of course, because it has to go through multiple filters to keep the same tone and appropriate language and lore in place. The research itself is half of the work, and then 20 different ways of saying hello or, hey, it's raining, stuff like that, is the other half of the work. I wouldn't ever decline suggestions for factions where you feel the dialogue is missing or some elements of lore or of trivia. So, pester me. Don't pester Mevins or the mod about this, because this is my own grave that I'm digging of saying, yeah, I could probably accept some help around speech banks, but I can then compile a neat collection, present that to Mevins for when the times are right so we can integrate them. Hi, hello again. No, there are other priorities right now than the 1.15 version, but is there any chance to add/replace commands to the command horn, like guard true/false instead of inactive true/false, and maybe a counting system? Yes, we'd like to add more commands to horns. Counting units and mechanics that involve limiting units cannot be done satisfactorily. For technical reasons, which it would take too long of a time to explain here. Yeah, horns of commands and all that, the sort of command are tricky. Will the Bree Hobbits be different people from the Shire counterparts, or will they be exactly the same? I actually can answer this, and I did answer this. Kind of, yes. From research, it has been abundantly clear that the Hobbits of Bree do not consider themselves the same as the Shire Hobbits. So different speech banks are written for them, and thus they have a different disposition than the colonies. Mechanically, all NPCs are kind of the same. Like every faction has a blacksmith, every faction has an idol, a bartender, a captain, a warrior. So in that sense, are they different than the Shire? Marginally. Will there be vertical stairs now that there is vertical slabs? Vertical stairs are technically what's already in Minecraft. I believe you meant horizontal stairs. We will likely not be adding horizontally placed stairs. I actually found this question kind of funny. I don't mean to joke on whoever sent this, but stairs tend to deal with verticality quite well. Are Rings of Power still a consideration or just seen as an impossibility? Rings of Power are still certain a possibility. A question for Grook. I'm happy Grook got all the acknowledgements that he deserves for working so hard on all the new textures. How much of a challenge was it to warm up to the 1.14 plus texture style? Well, the new style has quite a lot of rules that you need to follow to keep everything consistent, Grook says he still has quite a lot to learn, but he's getting there. So, glad to hear that, and honestly, I think his work is phenomenal. Alright, can we expect multi-block GUI? GUI? I don't know how to actually properly pronounce that. I'll stick with GUI. Structures in the future, including those that could be only generated and used where they were generated. No crafting, no relocation. Also, can we expect some more sophisticated cooking system with pans, kettles, etc. Maybe put on top of a furnace to use. One thing we can say is that for update 36, originally, but it probably won't be included now, we plan to change the way the faction tables work. Instead of having to switch between them, say if you were put a dwarven table next to an elven table and a vanilla crafting table next to that, you'd be able to switch between all three tables in a single GUI through a tab system, where you can tab between the different table GUIs. Just a quality of life feature, it will probably be added in the future. What is the fate of the huge vanilla bees? We plan on reducing the size of vanilla bees. Do you think you might possibly use a new dimension system coming out in the snapshots right now? If you mean the April Fool snapshot, it's not going to be kept in the actual game, as far as we're aware, and we don't see how that could apply to Middle-earth. How will mod shields work compared to vanilla ones? Will their function be identical or has it yet to be decided? Yet to be decided, but we are thinking of retaining some functionality of shields, if only as an item rather than a toggled option menu. Will Lake Town be a sub-faction at some point soon? We don't plan on this, but it may be discussed in the future. Good afternoon! It actually is afternoon, so good afternoon. Congratulations on the 1.15 news. Thank you. I was wondering, as a 1.7.10 server owner who is on the Cauldron platform, what future, if any, exists for the version of 1.7.10? Would there be more lenient policy towards submods for 1.7.10 and 1.7.10 only, as some servers will not be able to update? If so, to what extent? He then presumes to give some ideas. I'm going to quickly skip over those. And then there's a final part of this question. You mentioned some additions that could be worked on while the mod team focuses on updating to 1.15. There are many contributors on the wiki who could help and more throughout the community who have ideas. It's a very long question, but we gave an answer to it either way. It is also an interesting question. It might be that after the 1.15 update is complete and 1.7.10 truly becomes legacy, we would decide to hand it over to the community, so to speak. That's what was done with the Lion King mod, although as far as we're aware, nobody did much with it. We can't promise anything for now, but it's something we'll consider. Another thing we will add is that the 1.15.2 version, once complete, will be much more amenable. I don't know actually what that word means. Interesting. Amenable to customization via data packs, and features such as waypoints, roads, and faction properties will likely be reworked to make use of data packs. We are planning to work with some other programmers on this. So there you have it. Will all vanilla animals be integrated into Middle-earth, even ocelots, Baruthia's cats for the win? And what will happen to the mods' rabbits? If they have a place in Middle-earth, we will find it for them and integrate them. However, some mobs that do not fit will be confined to the vanilla overworld. And concerning rabbits, well, we have Roscobel rabbits. I'd like to see the bunnies try. No, we plan to keep our own rabbits. How will the PvP bar be done? Will you guys keep the old cooldown bar added by the mod or the new cooldown bar? Where you charge up for a bigger hit? We have not yet fully discussed what to do in regards to the vanilla cooldown system. I'm now going to take a sip of my tea. You should do the same. Alright. Continuing on. Will new stuff be added to the Middle-earth oceans using the vanilla stuff, especially water ruins, new corals, etc.? We will be adding in the appropriate ocean items / blocks to the southern Middle-earth oceans. As for more underwater ruins, I'd like to try getting some more of those into the mod. Will some of the forum suggestions be implemented into the renewed version in the future? I really enjoyed the Major Gundabad expansion by Elbuis, and it would be sad to see such a good suggestion and others like it to go unnoticed. We have our eyes on Gundabad expansions. Will the map generate in the same way or will it become larger / smaller? The map will be staying the same size. Have you thought about making an alternative for end drafts? Because at the moment end drafts gives effects that can't be gotten from any other brews, and for people who want to have alignment with evil and need them cannot kill them. And then the question is cut off, I think. But essentially, what's our plan for end drafts? The main thing that forces our hand on this is staying true to the lore. I suppose we might add some more Morgul sorcery items in the future. With all the new engine changes, do you plan to keep up to date with the newest versions, or just wait until the benefits become substantial enough to update again? Have you looked into lighter mod loaders such as Fabric? We will hopefully keep up with the Minecraft updates more, because as we said to someone above, they will hopefully not include such huge changes to the codebase. About Fabric, we absolutely need the heavy capabilities of Forge to create a mod like this. Is there any chance of another cosmetic item instead of shields, as they will be used for fighting, or make it so that craft faction shields you will need 100 alignment? We might make it so that you need alignment to craft those recipes, and an alignment requirement beyond +1 on crafting faction equipments is something we've been thinking about for years now. Things like this will probably be easier in 1.15.2. I noticed lavender had been added to the first snapshot. Is there any reason in particular for that? Yes, but you'll have to wait a few weeks and see. How are the oceans going to work with all the update aquatic content? We will be adding the appropriate updated aquatic content to the southern oceans of Middle-earth. This is basically a repeat question, but just to confirm, some of the stuff will move to the southern areas. What new features are you most excited to add? It's going to be quite fun to redo the map biome generator. That was one of the most exciting things to add back in the old days. Another swig of tea. Okay. Hello, Mevins and other staff of Lord of the Rings. Hi. I have only one general question. I see a tendency to Valve time in the development of Lord of the Rings. Every new update has bigger time of development. Are you planning to continue this tendency? I don't hurry you. No way. I actually answered this. This is mainly due to us growing older and getting more responsibility to preoccupy ourselves with, but it all depends on how much time is given to us to work and how much energy we have left. For this sudden burst, it's mainly because many of us are stuck at home in quarantine right now. And on that note, I want everyone to stay safe. Take this serious, it's not a joke. Will NPC AI receive any changes due to the additions from 1.9 up to 1.14? As an example, 1.9 plus Skeleton AI, Vindicator Axes, disabling shields, etc. We confess we're not entirely sure what additions have been made to vanilla AI. One thing we did see a hint of in the code is that mobs avoid fire blocks now. That wasn't in 1.7.10, so I had to add it in myself. Good to see. Do you have any concerns about the extensive increased amount of RAM a server would need to run mods in 1.15.2? I would expect a lot of servers with not enough memory to have some problems due to the update. Having been playing a 1.15 server recently, we know what you mean. All we can say is this is probably outside of our capabilities to fix, unless we've managed to find some easy optimization waiting to be made. Like we found in 1.7.10 with grass blocks ticking, water ticking, and mob spawning. Besides that, there will hopefully be some mods like Fastcraft that help. Also, we've heard that 1.16 might improve things on this front. Thank you for doing this Q&A and for making such an excellent mod which has brought me hours of entertainment. It has brought us years of entertainment, but I'm glad that you also enjoy it. Do you have any intention of adding more bosses in the not distant future? For now, we really are focused on getting what we had in 1.7.10 into 1.15.2, so no bosses in the near future. Not in the near future, we do have ideas and plans for bosses, but they have to feel right and fit right before we put them in. It definitely comes up whether we want to add a boss or not, so you can expect a boss at some point. Will lights be able to be recolored similar to shaders, Morgul torches glow green, etc. And in so doing that, will biomes be able to be lit in a different color? Gorgoroth having a reddish ashy hue, and with the different times of day, midday being a lot brighter than dusk, which would be more orange. So this is a question mainly about lights. We have never tried to write shader code, so we don't know. Maybe someone could write a shader designed to be used with the Lord of the Rings mod, which achieves these things. Will the vanilla banners and mod banners be different eventually, or will they be combined into one? We plan on keeping both separate, and the Fantastic Grook has even said that we might see Lord of the Rings design options / patterns for vanilla banners too. Any plans on making it possible for the players to hire Ents? They could work as a pledge-only troop for Fangorn, since there's no benefits for pledging at the moment. Simply put, no. Ents are not the same as many other entities, and they aren't contracted into armies or violence. They're an entity in a will of their own, maybe save for the Valar, and we would not want to break the lore to make them violent. It just doesn't fit the lore to really have you hire Ents. So yeah. How will 3D biomes affect the mod? 1.15 changed it so chunks are X, Y, and Z rather than just X and Z. Are there any plans for this? Edit. 1.16 is the first implementation of this. The lava lakes on the bottom of the nether are now an actual biome. The answer? We are very excited by the changed biome generation, and we've already floated many ideas around. An example can be improved or unique caves. Is there anything you aren't planning on porting to 1.15? We are only planning to leave out those things which vanilla has added in intervening years. For example, armor stands. Some other things like rabbits we have yet to decide whether to port as a Middle-earth alternative or leave out. We'll probably ask community about these. Ruskable rabbits! Will there be more gates added eventually? Dalish, Darwinian, different orc types instead of one general one? Possibly? Though in general we like to stray away from bloat when one item will suffice. For example, that's why we never added toolsets for most managed factions when they have wooden, stone, iron, bronze tools. What are the plans to introduce features such as siege machines and ships? I totally understand if they're not top priorities at the moment, but I'd just like to know. No, they're not top priorities at the moment. Someone else asked that in the first round. You might like to scroll up and read the answer there. So I already read the answer out to you guys. Yeah, there's plans, but we have no concrete schedule for them. Are there any plans to change some of the far more movie-inspired older content, Gondor and Isengard armor for example, to follow the book's descriptions more closely? There are currently no plans on changing the original design of such textures. Any plans / ideas for the mechanics of fell beasts and or eagles? No plans, plenty of ideas. But this answer is also mostly answered in the frequently asked questions. As an add-on, I can give you this answer. They will come when they will, and we have the right idea for it. We will make a plan for it. But at the moment, we don't really have a plan. Will PvP be like to vanilla, where if you miss a hit, the weapon has to cool down? There are currently no concrete plans on the direction to take PvP, such as cooldowns. Again, PvP is still very much a up for debate situation. Not a swig of tea. Okay. Let's keep going, shall we? Is there any way to donate and show my support for your guys' hard work? Any donations are extremely appreciated. Given how many hours Mevin spent on this mod, a little can go a long way and really helps him feel like it's worth it. He has a donation link available on the sidebar on the wiki front page for PayPal. I'll be sure to put the link in the description so you guys can find it in case you want to support this mod. If you donate above a certain amount, you can also get a special shield or title to display in-game, which will be available with the next 1.7.10 mod update and in 1.15 once we get around to adding them in. So yeah, if you do feel like you have extra money and you would be so gracious, there is a way to support Mevins into making this mod after spending years of blood, sweat and tears into this. Do you ever plan on adding some kind of functional boats to the mod? We plan on sticking to vanilla boats for the near future. Do you have any plan to add a Middle-earth equivalent of mending? If so, any thoughts of how you would implement it? It's not something we've thought about yet, to be honest. Maybe we'll think of something. Do you have any plans for adding a special item to the obsidian level of Tumno? We have thought for a very long time about this and rejected at least 12 ideas due to various reasons. You're welcome to help us and try to come up with something. Any items we would have to be 1. Be lore justifiable. 2. Make sense for an obsidian theme. And 3. Not be a thorns replacement because the way thorns works breaks PvP. Are rings of power still a consideration or just seen as an impossibility? So again, we really had this question already. Not by any means impossible, we just never got around to adding them yet. Will invasions be updated to look more like a pillager raids? We already added an invasion boss bar and started working on a more wave-like system for update 36, so yes? Question mark. What will keep people from crafting many alignment shields and giving them to friends, if they are craftable? It's a good question actually. Perhaps they would require alignment to hold, as well as craft. Then again, that problem already exists with armor and weapons. What do you like the most about this new adventure? It's an opportunity to make things seem fresh and exciting again for everyone. Relatively simple question, but if the Lord of the Rings mod shields are going to be craftable, will they still appear on the player's back? Currently, they are not able to be equipped to your back in 1.15. Mevins will be looking into it in the future, so hopefully we can still have them display on players' backs still. How will mobs from the newer version of Minecraft be adapted to Middle-earth, like stray cats and parrots, if at all. I think someone else might have already answered this question. If memory serves, it mentioned ocelots too. So this is basically, if we find a place for it, we'll put it in. Otherwise, if it really doesn't fit the Lord of the Rings mod, we'll confine it to vanilla overworld. What kinds of changes can we expect, aside from the normal vanilla stuff implemented? Anything new? We don't specifically plan to change anything during the porting, but doubtless we'll renew some features along the way, like you've seen with the sideways pillars. Will there be more juicy stuff behind the Red Mountains and Haridor? Waypoints or something to ease traveling? Not really a question about the renewed update, but for that sort of stuff, the answer is always planned for the future. What will this higher version of Minecraft allow you to do concerning hireable units? Nothing comes to mind that's possible in 1.15 that would have been impossible in 1.7.10. 1.15 comes with a lot of changes, but you consider terrain generation to be one of the things you might want to enhance. There's a project out there called Terraforged, which produces naturally generated terrain like this, and the code is openly sourced. If you had the chance to implement something like this, would you? It's a long answer. I do like we do like terrain generation changes, but we fear that something on the amazing scale of Terraforged is more the domain of a specific world gen mod. What we mean is, if we could wave a wand and have it be as good as that, we absolutely would, but we have tons of other areas to cover besides world generation, so we can't invest anywhere near as much effort into world generation as they are able to. There will hopefully be lots of terrain generation upgrades in the future, and without even having checked out what species of open source their code is, I would not feel it is ethically right to seek to implement open source code into a closed source mod. Okay, that was round 2 of the question, guys. We're on page 11 now. We're gonna have 7 more pages of questions and then we're done. So let's just jump into round 3, get through that, and you guys can stop listening to me rambling on. Alright, can we expect separate speech banks for the different Orcish factions in the mod? I would love to do that. I probably will do a patch over every faction and their speech banks as we port to 1.15. Just like the structures and every other aspect of the mod, I do want to take care of some old legacy stuff and give them a fresh lick of paint. Orcish factions would also be a part of this, to localize them a bit more. Will there be changes in how fruit trees work? They already are. The leaves spawn in fruit types and just plain leaves. This occurs already in our new snapshot. So yeah, we did change how the fruit trees work. You can already try that out in the new snapshot for 1.15. Bit of a specific question. When NPCs are eventually re-implemented, do you have any plans to split up the Orcish speech banks? Same as basically before. The current speech bank used for all orcs is rather vague and feels quite outdated in comparison to some of the others. You've mentioned that you plan to tweak things as you re-add them, but is this something that has been or will be expressly considered? As I already said, I indeed have the intention to localize the Orcish speech banks, and a bit when I go over the old legacy. I actually was not aware that Orcish speech banks was something a lot of people, or at least, you know, the community noticed of, hey, this is really old. So I'm glad to have that feedback. Now I can look into it. Will there be a way to combine and upgrade scrolls? No, at this time there is no plans to allow combine/upgrading modifier scrolls. Are there any plans for making single-player quests more in-depth and interactive? Falling back on the quest question we had like, what, 20 minutes ago? Yes, there are plans to include sequential quests, so they have multiple steps, and more than just fetch/kill quests. These plans, however, are not a priority at the moment, and may take some time before they are realized. I do run the forefront of this movement though, as I really want more of an immersive NPC experience, but this will cost a lot of time. So this is purely a matter of time, and if Mevans basically has time to look into the system, because that system of course has to be written as well, and then it's just the sheer quantity of writing that is holding this back. But I do have plans for making more single player quests that are in depth or interactive. What level of focus do you place on mod PvP when you're balancing weapons, armor and modifiers, and do you consider PvP to be an integral part of the mod? PvP is certainly a significant portion of Minecraft, the mod, and any Lord of the Rings server. We take PvP into a massive amount of care when balancing weapons, as that is one of the only 2 uses apart from PvE. PvE must also be respected however and handled with care. Are any map changes going to happen when the map is redone? We don't currently plan on changes to the map, but this is very possible to change when we do deep dives into specific regions. The submodding stance has always been confusing. Ah yes, the classic submod issue of the community. Since so many people have varying definitions, is it permitted to make mods that modify but are dependent on Lord of the Rings and don't directly change or use mod code? Indeed, there are lots of different ideas on what constitutes as a submod, and I am sorry that the communication has been confusing in the past. We will make the situation more clear down the line as the situation with 1.7.10 and 1.15 develops, but as the mod is ported to 1.15, one of our goals is to make things more customizable with data packs, so that people can achieve map/faction modifications using just the mod itself and a data pack. I replied to someone up above with some more info on what this would entail. So you can expect more clearer, basically, communication on the situation down the road. Are capes planted to be added? That would be weird. For a higher level alignment. Unfortunately, capes go against Mojang's EULA. If anyone remembers from playing the mod way back before shields were a thing, we actually had capes and cloaks. And then they added that rule because they had Minecraft Con, and it's like now any mod that uses capes, that's illegal. So we had to swap to shields, and now we're updating to 1.15 and they're adding shields. So now it's like, okay, what do we do as our cosmetic? Will honey be used for meat instead of sugar? I think that's something we will definitely look into. Will compatibility and integration be added for vanilla commands regarding entities and MBT data? I'm thinking especially of entity and entity selectors. If the mod is coded properly, which it will be, all the stuff will automatically be usable on Lord of the Rings entities without having to work on it specifically. Will throwing axes ever be a viable good weapon? Oi! With changes to combat, perhaps they can be buffed somehow. Are goblins going to be added as a subspecies of orcs at some point, or will the mod keep them as the same thing, like they are meant to be in the books? It's something on the planned features list that I've wondered about for a while. Goblins are just orcs. We might add some sort of cave orc sub-faction someday down the line, but right now porting the mod is our main focus. Yeah, goblins and orcs are basically synonyms. One is just for a different language. Or basically like a dialect, like hobbits saying goblin, but elves saying orcs. It's kind of the same. It's just a local word for the same thing. We have farmhands to aid us in farming. Are there any plans to give players similar NPCs in mining or trading or other aspects of the game? We have in-depth plans to add custom traders, who you will be able to hire as middlemen and give specified stocks and buy requests. But they'll take a small cut of the profits, of course. So we are looking into this. Are version 36 and version renewed connected? Will they come together? Thank you to the moderator team for time sacrifice. We plan on bringing the renewed version to catch up with update 36, and then renewed will return to being named update 37, 38, etc. Dragons? Will that be a thing? Have y'all thought about it? Also, thank you guys for this grind on such a huge mod. It's amazing what y'all do. Thank you. Yes, we plan for dragons in the future, and thank you for your kind words. Will skin changers be a thing? Yes, we plan on skin changers / Bayon's folk in the future. Will there be coming custom shields? That's a bit of an odd question, but that's fine. If we add some new vanilla banner patterns, you'll be able to add those on shields too. Will units be rebalanced for 1.15, with maybe people with 3 people's alignment getting a unit on par with Orcs and Uruks? Most likely having an existing unit buffed, I'd assume. Thank you for all your work, by the way, I love the mod. Was answered before, we might go over the balance as we port these features into the new version. Will you be considering the addition of underground structures such as Dwarven and Goblin ruins / lairs, or even those of forgotten creatures within the depths of Middle-earth? There have been considerations to adding Dwarven and Orc structures with more depth in the past, but we haven't gotten around to it yet. Once the mod has been properly set up for 1.15.2, we might take more consideration to these types of structures. If any new relevant lore stuff comes with the Amazon series, will that new lore be added to the mod, especially map changes if there are any? We like to base our mod on the books and Tolkien's writings alone, and invent any non-canonical additions ourselves, so we don't expect any non-canon content in the Amazon series will be directly added to the mod, but it might inspire us in less direct ways. Is there any way to add a sort of background to the game that is featured in many other video games that outside of the playable area? Basically a backdrop. Some way to show the Misty Mountains in the background, outside of your render distance if you're standing in the Lone Lands, for example. In the books, characters would always look far off and see the mountains. That can be done with skyboxes, yes, although in our case we would have to come up with some sort of dynamic skybox that changes based on your location. So it's tricky, it's possible. We don't know. When will you finally add the Chat Best Man, the epic Lossoth? Chad does not appear when you, or even we, ask him to come. Chad adds himself to the mod when he feels like it. Are you planning to use STR scan method for Gondor and other old structures? We might, but in general, simply transferring across old code is quicker than redoing it all in STR scan format. I hope you guys are all still with me, by the way. Personally, what is your favorite of the new since 1.7.10? Of the new features, I guess, of the mod. I mean stuff like the end overhaul, big bees, etc. For a lot of us in the mod team, it's the improved ocean and boats. For others, it's different textures. A few of us also quite like the changes to the end and nether. Overall, the game seems a lot more optimized too, which is very lovely. Will civilians NPCs be able to be promoted into traders in the same way villagers are assigned professions in post 1.14? Probably not in exactly the same way because it's not very humanizing, but we do want to add a way of obtaining your own traders so you can build a new settlement more easily. Since you are essentially remaking the mod from scratch, are you experiencing any nostalgia during the process? What a lovely question. Very much. It's very nostalgic going through all this old code and old features, and re-adding things that the younger version of Mevans added 7 years ago. Seeing the ring portal appear for the first time in 1.15 was particularly sentimental, and it offers plenty of opportunities for reflection. Some things change, some things stay the same. Okay, this is a big boy question with a brief answer, so this is going to be interesting. Are there any plans to expand the weapon tree, either adding different weapons varied by faction to have different attributes, or different kinds of range weapons? Basically, elves at the moment don't have hammers or axes, but they would maybe get javelins or a saber, whereas orcs might get an additional mace plus chain. I personally feel like this would make certain factions more appealing based on your fighting style. You can change other things besides weapons to add diversity too. Have you at all thought about changing up the mod PvP as the mod updates to vanilla PvP as well? If it is fitting, we could certainly add different weapons for different factions. And yes, PvP is very different in vanilla, so we have some decisions to make in regards to PvP. The community benefits so much from the hard work you guys do. How can we give back? I know there's a link for donations, but for people who can't spare anything, how best can we help the mod team? So this is basically in case you don't have money or don't feel comfortable sending money to support Mevans, there are ways, of course, to support us that isn't by donating money. What can be done that doesn't amount to adding more work for us? One helpful possibility for people that doesn't cost anything except an internet access is working to update and complete the mod's wiki. There's a surprising amount of things that haven't been documented yet or could use a rework, and with the renewed updates there will be a lot more work than before on the wiki. So if you want to help the mod, you can look into the wiki and help out there. Another thing that people can do is spread the word about the mod. Introduce friends to it, post it on social media platforms. The mod has its own subreddit now, at least so far as we're told. Finally, for those who speak multiple languages, there is the option to update language files, although a lot more of the common languages have been done already. So if you want to help the mod, but don't have or don't want to spend money on it, that's fair, but those are ways you can help us out. Any thoughts of splitting Linden and Rivendell into their own factions instead of keeping them grouped as High Elves? We don't currently plan on that. Will we get a list of all the new features in the last 1.7.10 update? Plus, thanks for doing this. This mod gave me fun through the years and gave me a push to start coding myself. Awesome! I think you can be very proud of what you accomplished on 1.7.10. I think we all really are proud of both Mevans and Grook and just the entire mod team ourselves for like how much of a community we've created. Looking forward to what you will accomplish on this new adventure. Yeah, me too. Update 36 will have a complete changelog if that's what you're asking. If you want to hear more about what we added to it that hasn't been announced yet, we'll try to get some videos out shortly. Yeah, I'll try to get you guys some videos. I'm sorry, I've been busy. I hope you're all doing okay. With 1.15, is the map able to be made bigger now, and if so, is there a chance of such places as the New Lands and Darklands being added? For the time being, our primary focus will remain on Middle-earth. We are also removing Harad and its entirety so that the map will be made smaller. And then a lot of cheeky smileys. We're not removing Harad. We are destroying her rod. If you add dragons in the far future, will they be able to be saddled? Would they use fire? That is probably too speculative to say anything solid about. Sorry, we don't know. So I know this will be out of scope for a long time, but are there any ideas where to take Conquest next? We had a big discussion last year and got several ideas for how to improve Conquest for Update 36. Some of these will be implemented, some not until after Renewed, but we have it all saved for the future. Have you had hopes of adding any Civ-like elements to the game, such as developing towns and inhabitants, a la something like mine colonies or something like that? It is something that has been discussed on some occasions, and while it is not a possibility of being ruled out, we don't plan on this currently. Are there any planned changes to make the combat deeper in regards to both how you hit someone, a more basic form of mountain blade, and how weapons interact with each other, rock, paper, scissors type system perhaps? We have discussed weapon interaction with shields, if that's what you're referencing. We're also interested in looking into what you described with the first bit. Will Update 36's content show up in some of the earlier renewed snapshots? I would assume it would be easy to add the blocks and biomes since you're working on them currently, or will it be towards the end of Renewed? The new blocks/items for Update 36 will likely be added in the Renewed edition sometime after the real Update 36 comes out. Although we do already have the new Update 36 flower, Lavender, in the Renewed edition already, so who knows? Would you consider dual wield in the mod in the future? Dual wielding is something we will discuss, and two-handed weapons too. We have the normal spears, pike, hammers, axes, etc. in the mod, but have you thought of adding different kinds of weapons than more than one faction can use? We don't quite understand this question, but all factions have several weapons they can use, and there are neutral types of weapons, such as mithril. So, yeah, lack of context didn't quite deliver an answer there. Have you considered adding things that are troublesome to fit in the lore, such as an equivalent to end drafts for evil to the southern factions such as half-trolls, since it can simply be integrated into the faction lore instead of having to mold it around existing faction-style lore? That's certainly a route we can take. However, it is also perhaps troublesome to give non-lore factions so much focus than if you're encouraged to interact with non-immersive features. It is delicate to balance this entire ecosystem, so as mentioned before, maybe Morgul magic will be a solution. There's various ways we can approach this. Will NPCs be able to use shields and block with them, or just the player? In the same vein, how will two hands affect NPCs in general? Will we see dual wielding NPCs? NPCs will be able to use shields, as they do now, and they will presumably work as they do for players in 1.9+. From looking in the code, it seems all mobs have the potential for an offhand, so dual-wielding NPCs is definitely a possibility code-wise, though we need to figure out how to make it work mechanically. With your free time getting lower and lower, would you consider adding more people to the team? What skills would really be useful for someone to have to help with the mod? This is actually a quite common question, so Mevins prefers to write all the code himself, because he sees it as his personal project rather than a list of features to complete on time. We aren't currently looking for assistance, but if you want to help, you could consider sending a donation or see my response earlier for non-financial ways to help out. Will different biome heights that allow stuff like Falls of Rauros be a possibility with 1.15 or higher? I don't know if cubical chunks might make it easier to implement. To be honest, cubic chunks wouldn't affect the feasibility of waterfalls terrain gen in any way, I can't imagine. Cubic chunks are a method for optimizing storage and or making higher heights more feasible, not a method for terrain generation. Alright, we're almost there. You've already discussed potentially rebalancing factions farther into the future, but I'm wondering what kind of AI upgrades you might be capable of doing in 1.15 to existing NPCs to enhance the amount of interactability with them. I mean, how dynamic might you be able to make the mobs? How could they affect the environment and other NPCs around them? I asked it in the form of multiple, but it all really is only one question. Loving the Q&A so far. We did too. It was a lot of fun to do this. AI upgrades are the kind of thing that are limited by the coder's ability or imagination, not by the Minecraft version. The basic AI system, since even earlier than 1.7.10, has been able to handle almost any kind of task you could imagine. The challenge is in working out how to simplify the task into a set of discrete and ambiguous steps. An algorithm, a program, code. I don't see any way that 1.15 would make things easier on this front unless it is a particular kind of AI task that now exists in the modern game and thus would allow us to save time by copying the algorithm rather than designing a new one. That is actually a common thing of anything is possible with code. It's just a question of how do you do this, that is the tricky one, and how many steps does it take, or how much power does it require, or memory. I'm quickly going to take another swig of my tea, which is cold by now, and close my window. There. Who needs sunlight and fresh air? You mentioned that hopefully the renewed process will help with update timeframes. Are you saying then that it is possible that once everything is ported, you may just have small 2-3 item updates and gradually rolling out a faction stuff rather than waiting until you've completed said faction? The answer to this. A problem is that over the years we've developed expectations for ourselves. Expectations of releasing large and complex polished updates. Comparing, for example, any of the 2017 to present updates to the original year of the mod's development, those older updates are completely different in style, and the renewed snapshots are much more similar to those older updates. Also, when adding a faction specifically, there is an expectation to add it in as completely playable from the first moment. This is what slows down updates, the feeling that we can't just publish anything at any moment, that more must be completed first, which itself compounds the problem because of the psychology of procrastination. Hopefully, with the more blatantly in-development nature of Renewed, we will not face such a problem. Question for Iru the Haratman, or Mevans. I am a developer who works on several add-ons like Lambus, previously known as the PvP mode mod. Now that the mod is still in early stages of development, would there be a possibility for me to leave suggestions on how it would be easier for people to develop add-ons? I recall that Vinjarion has some sort of special deal with you guys. How does that work? Mevin's reply was, I would be very open to such suggestions on how to make the 1.15 mod more customizable, but I admit I have a habit of not checking Discord for long periods of time. The sheer amount of message build-up tends to make me feel some reluctance. As unhelpful as this may sound, I would suggest perhaps collating all your ideas in an easy-to-read format and posting it somewhere that the community or a moderator are likely to pick it up on and send to me. And then finally, the last question. Is there any hidden Easter egg in a mod not found yet? As for me, there should always be at least one. The answer to this is yes. There are some yet undocumented, but we wouldn't want to reveal those in a public Q&A, now would we? Alright, so that was nearly an hour of me talking, answering questions. I thank you if you sat through that. I hope I didn't bore you to death, and I hope everything was understandable. If you want to read these yourself, they are available at the moment on the Wiki Discord in the Q&A archive, and you can look at all of them yourself. Besides that, I want to thank you for your time. Have a lovely day, stay safe, wash your hands, and make sure you stay in contact with your relatives. You might see more of me in the coming few days, because, again, I'm also in quarantine, so I have a little bit more time on my hands. But that is yet to be seen. Until then, peace out.